the end of the world. I could feel all this death.
Everything they built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground. That thing's moving. Tornado. Stay with it. Get right behind it. Get right behind it. Get up behind it. Got it. Stop.
This video you're looking at is a large wedge tornado that touched down in Aliceville, Alabama yesterday afternoon. Now, this report came in just before 5 o'clock yesterday. This tornado started. It was a large and destructive tornado that caused damage to homes across Pickens County with, believe it or not, only minor injuries reported. Aliceville is about 45 miles west of Tuscaloosa, where a tornado devastated the city in April of 2011. And it wasn't just Aliceville. Now, this is McMullen, Alabama, which is just in the vicinity of Aliceville. And look at all that damage. Now, this came from one supercell that started in eastern Mississippi. And there's a look at the supercell. So you can see it starting to move to Alabama. Now, this was about a few hours that this supercell tracked and really caused a lot of devastation. Here's a look at all the tornado reports that came out of that supercell in that short period of time yesterday, late afternoon through the early evening. Now, still a lot of homes are without power.
A day after destructive tornadoes swept through the South, the outbreak flattened homes and knocked out power in Mississippi and Alabama. More than 27 million Americans today face more dangerous weather.
And this massive storm stretches from the south to the mid-Atlantic, carrying thunderstorms and snow. David Begnaud is in Collinsville, Mississippi, with the storm's wide reach. David, good morning.
Nora, good morning. This is the First Baptist Church of Collinsville, and the damage is substantial. On any given weekend, there would have been kids inside that gymnasium. But because the tornado hit during the week, it was empty. On this side, you see this building that was used for Sunday school. Look at the top story. The second story, those chairs, now exposed to the elements where kids would have otherwise been sitting. No one was here except the pastor, his wife, and their son. And when the tornado hit, they rushed to the church inside of an office, and they hid underneath a desk.
It's in the water tower!
At least 12 tornadoes reportedly tore through the southern U.S. Tuesday.
There goes that tornado!
Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground.
This one touched down in Scuba, Mississippi, and made its way all the way to Alabama, leveling homes and leaving a path of destruction that stretched across both states.
Thank God we,
you know, we're all okay. That's the main thing anytime you have a storm.
In Rankin County, Mississippi, firefighters rescued at least 8 people from rising floodwater.
Seeing them come, that was the best part of it. And when I seen those lights coming down this road, I knew that we were going to be okay.
Willie Jackson and his family hid as a tornado hit their home.
And we survived at the grace of God.
It's right there.
The tornado that hit Collinsville, Mississippi, ripped apart the First Baptist Church. Pastor Wade Ricks told church members he heard the tornado sirens blaring and rushed his family to safety.
The pastor loaded his wife and son up into this white Suburban and pulled it alongside the church, thinking the wall of the building would help protect the vehicle. You can see what happened to the back window.
The Ricks family raced inside the church where they hid under a desk. More than 350 members of the church now need to find a place to worship on Sunday.
Explain the damage to me.
The damage is pretty extreme. Every building has received substantial damage. Most of it, as you can see, is going to have to be pretty much torn down.
The same storm that fueled tornadoes in the south created blizzard-like conditions across the plains. A whiteout condition in southwestern Minnesota prompted a travel ban, while more than a foot of snow fell in parts of Nebraska.
Across the South, we've not gotten any reports of major injuries or even deaths for that matter. Gail, on a lighter note, we're told the pastor here at the First Baptist Church in Collinsville, he preached about weathering the storm last Sunday. His worship minister now says he has no plans of talking about storms for quite a while now.
A huge mess in a historic Midtown Tulsa neighborhood. Massive sinkholes are showing up in backyards, affecting foundations and even tilting one garage. Tonight, 2 Works For You reporter Nathan Edwards explores what neighbors in Maple Ridge think is to blame. Nathan?
Well, Karen, right now we're at a house near 19th and Madison. Plumbers actually put up plywood to keep kids away from the sinkhole. We're standing back for safety reasons. You see piles of dirt stacking up in the yard as they try to fix the problem.
It's just frustration, mostly.
A garage teetering on the edge.
The foundation on the whole back corner has fallen into the hole.
A sinkhole turning Catherine Oftenkamp's yard into a construction site.
It's pretty disturbing when you find a 9-foot hole in the backyard where your children and pets play. And it's pretty scary.
Catherine says the city sewage pipe is to blame. Just 2 doors down, Ryan Sakra dealing with issues going on 4 years now.
It's leaning this way and back towards the excavation that was done by the city.
His garage tilting toward that same pipe, having to build an emergency wall to keep it standing.
The city said it wasn't their fault, that they're not responsible for their contractors.
Ryan says the contractor's sloppy work caused these problems, later suing them for damages. But the headaches aren't over, noticing a new sinkhole behind his garage.
Somebody needs to step up here and take care of this.
The main sewage line running from house to house is run by the city. 2 Works For You problem solvers reaching out to them tonight to get something done.
I can tell you what's going to happen going forward is those main lines, the city's responsibility, they will get fixed.
The city's engineer says homeowners should not have to put up with this. But Catherine says the damage has been done.
It'll be well over $10,000 before we're done.
A costly problem the city plans on addressing tomorrow. I'm told they'll have crews out here first thing in the morning. Live in Midtown Tulsa, Nathan Edwards, 2 Works For You.
Avanzamos para contarles que Cernajemin anunció que el volcán Chillán está cerca de un evento eruptivo mayor y llama a las personas a informarse. La última erupción importante del macizo fue en el año 1973 y desde el 31 de diciembre del año pasado se mantiene bajo alerta amarilla. Según el director nacional del Cernajemin, Rodrigo Álvarez, los pulsos de ceniza se han incrementado y seguirán haciéndolo, lo que podría generar una actividad de mayor envergadura. Las autoridades llamaron a los municipios de la zona a tener planes de evacuación y que las comunidades cercanas del volcán permanezcan informadas.
Taking action for your health now, we're learning about a new risk from the Zika virus. Doctors in Texas now telling us it can be transmitted during sex. And we're just learning about new travel-related cases in Florida. There are now 9 total, and that includes 4 in Miami-Dade, 2 in Hillsborough, 2 in Lee County, and 1 in Santa Rosa County. ABC Action News reporter Michael Paluska joins us live at the Port of Tampa with why Tampa could face a higher risk here. Michael?
Wendy, a main concern, as you know, is that thousands of people leave out of the Port of Tampa to take nice cruises to Mexico and the Caribbean, places where the Zika virus is proliferating at this point. And we're told by a doctor that 1 in 5 people that come back here and come back to Tampa won't know that they have the Zika virus because there's no symptoms. Showing no symptoms, an infected person would obviously never know they are the host a hungry mosquito is waiting for.
It's one of these viruses that can be quite tricky to study.
Dr. Stephanie Romero is the assistant professor at USF for maternal field medicine. She says if you don't have symptoms, you'd never request a blood test to find out if you were bitten by an infected mosquito after traveling to an infected area. That creates a big problem at home for women who are pregnant or planning to be pregnant.
My big question is, as far as being able to counsel my patients, is it more important if someone becomes infected during a certain time of their pregnancy? For example, if you get past the first trimester, can you just take a deep breath and say you're free, or is it more important later in pregnancy?
This type of mosquito bites during the day, so pregnant women should wear long sleeves, avoid mosquito breeding grounds, and wear insect repellent. That is safe to use during pregnancy, according to doctors. The link and risk to women has skyrocketed to a global concern after babies in El Salvador, Brazil, and French Polynesia reported a high number of children born with birth defects after the mother contracted the virus.
How much of an impact will that have on people's long-term health, and what can we do to help prevent any transmission to these fetuses?
And the World Health Organization saying tonight that they anticipate that 3 to 4 million Americans will be infected with the Zika virus by the end of the year. We're live here in Tampa tonight. Michael Paluska, ABC Action News.
This is a game changer. We looked at the mosquito biting the human in Latin America, coming here to the United States, and then the mosquito biting and transferring the virus that way. Now we're talking about sexually transmitting the Zika virus. That is a concern because of people who travel to Latin American countries who are engaging in unprotected sex, who could potentially bring back the virus and infect others. I think the concern is that 80% of those individuals diagnosed do not show any symptoms. So that's the challenge. And so not showing any symptoms, therefore, you run the risk of the transmission. So what we're asking Dallas County residents and DFW residents to make sure is that, first of all, you follow the CDC recommendation. Pregnant females should not be traveling to Latin America or these countries that are endemic for the Zika virus. Secondly, if you're engaging in sexual behavior with someone from those countries, that you use safe sex practices, for example, condoms. Well, I think the key point in what the WHO has identified is that pregnant women can pass on the virus, therefore brain defect to the newborn child. That's the #1 concern. Normally, those individuals who go through getting bitten don't show symptoms, able to move forward.
Somali authorities confirming an explosion that blew a hole in the side of a commercial plane shortly after takeoff. Killed at least 1 passenger. The victim's body found on the ground near Mogadishu. The pilot was amazingly able to safely land this aircraft. So far this morning, no confirmation of the cause of that blast or whether terrorism may be involved. I want to get the very latest from CNN's Robin Creel live from Nairobi. And Robin, when you look at the pictures of a hole blown in the side of this aircraft, it's almost amazing there was only 1 fatality. Was it because it hadn't gotten to cruising altitude? The cabin hadn't been entirely pressurized? Why was this plane able to land safely?
Well, hugely lucky, and it turns out, Christine, that plane was about an hour delayed. So if it had taken off at 10:30 a.m. local time, which it was due to take off at, and instead it took off at 12:30 a.m., if it had taken off at that time, and if there was something timed to go off on that plane, then that flight would have likely have been 1 hour into cruising altitude, 30,000 feet. And what we're told by experts is that if it had been on at that altitude and the explosion had occurred in that exact place right near the fuel tanks on the wing, then it would have been catastrophic for that flight and the 70-odd people on board. Here's what we know. It was an Airbus 321, Christine. It was heading from Mogadishu to Djibouti. A source close to the investigation tells us that they have tested that blast site, and that residue that they have collected has tested positive for explosives. We're not sure what explosive that was. 2 passengers injured and 1 passenger sucked out of the plane. His body was found close to Mogadishu. Somali authorities now have control of that body, and they will be looking at that body today as the day wears on. What we're not sure about, Christine, is what could be behind this explosion. As I said, it was 1 hour late to take off. So if it was some kind of timed device, and again, we do not know this, then if it had gone off when the plane was already in air and at cruising altitude, it would have been catastrophic. Al-Shabaab is an Al-Qaeda-linked group that has terror attacks almost daily in Mogadishu. As of yet, no one has come forward to claim responsibility if indeed this was some kind of terror attack.
A study by the University of Adelaide has revealed an alarming link between energy drink consumption and young people suffering heart problems. Doctors warn drinking more than 2 per day is dangerous and can even be deadly.
A popular way to get through the day.
A lot more energy than coffee, but they're a bit sweet. Puts it in your mind that it's going to give you a bit of energy.
But experts warn too many energy drinks can be dangerous and even deadly.
A heart attack is possible, also just simply the heart stops beating properly. In Australia, we've had one person who has died.
A study by the University of Adelaide shows many young people either don't know or ignore the risks. More than a third of patients between 13 and 40 years of age presenting to an emergency department with heart problems had consumed an energy drink in the 24 hours prior. 70% had consumed one in their lifetime.
One heroic person managed to consume 7 cans in a 24-hour period before turning up with heart palpitations.
Emerson Ward was drinking up to 3 a day when he noticed problems.
Tightening of the chest, you know, chest pains kind of thing.
It's not only the potent cocktail of caffeine, sugar and herbal extracts that can be dangerous. Experts warn the effects can be much worse when mixed with alcohol.
Alcohol itself can slow the breakdown of caffeine, so you'll get more caffeine in your bloodstream than you would if you're not consuming alcohol.
Despite discreet messages on containers warning people to limit consumption to 1 energy drink per day, shop discounts often encourage you to buy more.
You find most people don't really read the labels very well, so we could look at better ways to make the labels more visible.
Eddie Godfrey, 9 News.
The death toll from the H1N1 virus or the swine flu has risen to 7 in Georgia, the country's National Center for Disease Control said on Wednesday. In addition, another person was killed by the mutated flu virus H3N2. The Disease Control Center said the level of flu activity has decreased and it remains below the epidemic threshold. Georgia reported the first death from the H1N1 virus this year on January 17th. Russia and Ukraine have also been hit by an influenza epidemic, which has caused dozens of deaths during the ongoing cold season.
Crafted to expand civil rights protections for gay, lesbian, and bisexual Hoosiers and balance religious freedom died in the Senate today.
News Channel 15's Holly Campbell was at the State House in Indianapolis this afternoon and joins us now with more from lawmakers.
In the aftermath of the RFRA debate last year, civil rights became a glaring issue that was sure to make waves in the State House this year, and that it did. But after several weeks of debate, it was decided expanding civil rights will not happen in Indiana this year. Senator Travis Holdman of Markle sponsored the bill he thought would address some of the concerns following RFRA.
To try to balance between extending protections for the LGBT community, to make them a protected class under Indiana civil rights law, but at the same time preserve religious liberty.
But it quickly was under fire from both sides of the issue. LGBT rights activists said it didn't do enough, and religious conservatives said it didn't protect their beliefs enough. In the back and forth, transgenders were dropped from the bill.
We just couldn't get critical mass to move forward with the T there, and we thought getting something done was better than nothing.
But nothing is ultimately what happened.
We really felt that there was room for compromise, but it just came to a point where we just really ran into a brick wall on both sides of us. That we saw some movement at one point, but then it just that movement stopped and we were basically doomed.
So Holdman and Senate President Pro Tem David Long met with other Republican leaders and made the decision to kill it without a full debate or considering the 27 proposed amendments.
It's got to a point in the last 24 or 48 hours that folks basically just said we've gone as far as we're going to go on this issue, and it became evident to us that we just didn't have the votes to move it forward.
We didn't have the votes, quite simply.
There was a lot of momentum to expand civil rights in Indiana following last year's RFRA debate. And despite today's outcome, Senator Long says he doesn't expect that momentum to stop.
No, I don't think this issue is going away. This is a national discussion. Indiana is one of 30 states having a discussion like this, and so we'll continue to talk about it.
Freedom Indiana released a statement today that said, quote, "We've said from the onset that doing nothing was not an option. Today, lawmakers did nothing to help protect LGBT people in our state, but our work is only just beginning," end quote. We also have Senator Long's full speech he gave on the floor today. You can find that on WANE.com. Holly Campbell, News Channel 15.
Super Bowl 50 isn't just the biggest sports event of the year. It is also one of the largest security events, too. Sunday's game in Silicon Valley will feature technologies never used before to keep the public safe. Michelle Miller is near Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara with the security that will keep all eyes on the fans. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. This is one of several roadblocks along the perimeter of Levi's Stadium to keep the prying eyes of the public out. There are Humvees and patrol cars on site. And one thing is for certain, if you come anywhere near the game on Sunday, you will be watched, and closely. Everywhere you turn in the San Francisco Bay Area this week, you will find a massive security presence. From the water to land, even in the air. Quite a takeoff. The Air and Marine Branch of Customs and Border Protection is one of more than 50 law enforcement and government agencies working together to keep Super Bowl 50 secure. What specifically are you looking for when you're up here?
We're here enforcing the temporary flight restriction is our primary duty.
But this is also a surveillance operation.
Certainly you have the capability that we can put eyes on anyone within the 30 nautical mile radius in a pretty short amount of time.
Their video cameras are powerful enough to clearly see the faces of anyone in the vicinity of Levi's Stadium. This is really a massive eyeball in the air.
It is, without a doubt, and everybody knows it's there.
The Bay Area is already home to a state-of-the-art surveillance infrastructure with license plate readers and controversial cell phone trackers that could let police monitor your phone. Since the Super Bowl is happening in the heart of Silicon Valley, some agencies are trying out new technologies, including a data collection program that gives law enforcement a more complete picture of what's happening by integrating video feeds with agency cell phone and radio communications. Outside Levi's Stadium, Custom and Border Protection agents screen all cargo going into the venue with giant X-ray machines that can detect radioactive material. This is like Superman here.
Yes, this is a non-intrusive inspection piece of equipment. It's a gamma ray imaging system.
They did not want us to reveal the detailed images that are captured with this proprietary technology, but I was allowed to take a look. I see straight through this truck. I mean, you literally see every shadow inside that vehicle.
That's correct.
This event will test those both on and off the field.
We're working with a lot of interagency partnerships at the state, local, and federal levels, and they're out there assisting, making sure that the Super Bowl 50 event goes without any hitch.
The Department of Homeland Security is coordinating this effort under the direction of Secretary Jay Johnson. He's flying out from Washington today to meet with the NFL and local law enforcement officials. We will speak with him on the field at Levi's Stadium in just a few hours. He'll share with us his biggest concerns. Nora?
All right, Michelle, thank you so much. This morning, we're hearing from a woman who claims she was there when Malheur militia spokesman Lavoy Finicum was shot and killed.
Cora Harlan is here with Victoria Sharp's version of events. He joins us now with more on what she had to say. Cora?
Well, it's much different from what we've heard from the FBI. Victoria Sharp says she was a passenger in the back seat of that pickup that was driven by Lavoy Finicum. Finicum's truck avoided that state police roadblock and drove into deep snow. She's seen the FBI video emerging from the truck. He has seen, I should say, emerging from the truck with his hands in the air. Victoria Sharp, who is 18 years old, says when the truck came to rest, she heard shots hit the truck. CNN asked Sharp if she saw Finicum reach for a weapon. That's what the FBI video appears to show. She says that Finicum showed no signs of aggression in response to that question. She also told them he didn't reach for anything and says that Finicum was unjustly gunned down.
Lavoy, as he was walking towards them, and I didn't think they'd shoot him because he had his hands up, and I didn't think they would shoot him. I couldn't believe it when they did.
Here again.
All of a sudden we heard 3 shots, like, all together, and he went down. And I was like, oh my God, and we got down, and we heard 3 more shots, and they didn't hit the vehicle, so I assumed they shot him once he was down. And I started screaming.
Now, Victoria Sharp was at the refuge to sing Christian songs, she says, and provide moral support for the protest of the federal government that went on there. She was not arrested and says Finicum's death will inspire others to engage in future protests of the federal government. Jenny and Ken.
In eastern Oregon right now, a large gathering of anti-government protesters are outside the courthouse while more than 100 showed up to tell them to go home.
KOIN 6 reporter Jennifer Dowling has more from Harney County.
Good afternoon, Ken and Jenny. As you can see, there are a lot of people here. We're counting over 300 now surrounding the Harney County Courthouse. Some here from militia groups that are opposed to the government, others here in support of law enforcement and county government officials here. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see this scene. Just a mass of folks here surrounding the courthouse here chanting. You can hear "Don't shoot," those folks protesting the death of Lavoy Finicum. Also, you're hear chants of "Militia, go home" by those folks who would really like these outsiders to leave, and they want life to get back to normal here. Now, the militia leader of the 3% group, Brandon Curtis, turned a petition in this morning to oust the sheriff and other county commissioners. However, there's a large group of folks here in Harney County that are here to tell those folks who are from out of state, including the militant groups, to leave. There has been some tension this morning, but folks have kept it peaceful. It's mostly been words back and forth. And we heard from those who support the local officials and the folks that say they haven't been doing a good job in the crowd today.
It means there's the 3%ers are here, we're the other 97%. And we just assume they take their good things and go home.
Well, we're here to see that the Constitution is upheld. And we'd like to see it upheld in the whole nation. I really don't like these people that are claiming to be militia, and I think when they break the law, they should be in jail.
We're here because we don't believe that the federal government should own this land.
One of the tornadoes on camera, it ripped through Aliceville, Alabama. He's joining us live via Skype in Atlanta, where he's going through the rain there. Of course, not as tornadic, but we did just have that tornado warning. Kelly, let's talk about yesterday in the South. And first off, what kind of damage did you see? And were you surprised to see such a large tornado in the South?
Well, I wasn't really surprised to see that big, but what really surprised me was, you know, the number of the trees and that, you know, you can't see anything in that area. You know, the tornado would be right on top of you before you really knew it was coming.
And that's why it makes it so dangerous to chase in the South opposed to in the plains. You don't really have all the trees, you have the wide open spaces. Do you keep any different technology with you when you're chasing in the South versus when you're in the plains?
I run virtually about the same thing. I run 2 different radars and a couple different road programs. So I kind of try and keep where the tornado is versus where I am. But you know how technology is. A lot of times it'll fail you. So, you know, you can't just use it all the time.
Mm-hmm. So what type of damage did you see?
Well, I seen a lot of trailer houses that was kind of turned over, pushed over on their sides. I seen some barns tore up, a lot of trees down. Heard there was some damage there where I was at. It went by the prison, and of course couldn't get very close. Really didn't want to, but they had some damage there at the prison.
Did you see any straight line wind damage, or was it all tornadic that you saw?
Everything I come about was tornadic damage. I really never come up on any high winds, straight line winds, or anything like that. The wind was fairly calm, but right there at where the tornadic damage was, it was pretty good. I'd say it was probably around an EF1, just a rough guess.